So welcome everyone to Polly Podcast episode 20. Can you believe it? This is a special number that you're featuring on today, Tanner. How do you feel to be on episode 20?
Well, I kind of feel like you're rubbing a double digit in my face.
Hey, this podcast, it took a while to get to 20. This podcast has been going since like early 2021.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess so long as it lives on tape beats your pace, then I guess I'll be happy. But
yeah,
that's cool though. Episode 20.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah.
It feels good. But yeah, today we're talking about It Lives on Tape. So I got to have GrumblyGhost himself, my co-host Tanner, as we are two halves of It Lives on Tape. And
yes,
yeah, we're going to be talking about
two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. We're going to discuss all things that were our first unofficial season, but also just like our first 6-ish months of the podcast, first unofficial year of the podcast and everything. So yeah, that's what today's episode is going to be about. So glad to have you here.
Fun. Yeah, I would be a bit upset if you didn't have me here for this.
Imagine that. I'm just like, I do a certain episode, I'm just talking about It Lives on Tape, and I'm going into real details of like how I'm the mastermind behind it or something. I specifically cite like the episodes that you wrote, and I'm like, oh, it was really difficult working on running zombies. You know, I had to do heaps of research for it.
Well, you know, it's not untrue. You are a mastermind of a lot of aspects of the podcast, I feel.
50-50, 50-50.
Yeah.
But that'd be crazy.
It's like, but it doesn't feel like a 50-50 like this. It feels like a 50-50 like this.
Yeah, intertwined.
Is that? Yeah. Sorry. Are there audio-only listeners to this podcast, or is it entirely video?
There certainly could be, because there has been at like times where this podcast was audio only. So there certainly could be. But
traditionalists.
We're interlocking our fingers. We're showing intertwining, intermeshing.
Yes. To paint you a word picture. That is what I was saying. But I guess to explain further, it feels like less of a these are your things, these are my things, and more of a like we're helping each other out, kind of. It feels like a 3-legged race.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we're tied together, the 3-legged race. Yeah.
It was sort of like propping each other up kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a drunken walk home, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. We can find the rhythm, and then we're like speeding through, you know? But also when one of us...
down a hill.
Yeah, one of us might be injured or like feeling ill that day, then the other one's helping us along, you know? Yeah, it's a 3-legged race. Yeah. I like that.
Whether that ailment is moving, like buying a house or selling a house or being literally sick.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of sticks in our spokes. But yeah, it's been a largely positive experience, I feel.
Yeah, as they are with any prolonged creative endeavor, I imagine. But yeah, It Lives on Tape. For anyone who's new to It Lives on Tape, by the way, if you're just strictly a Polly podcast supporter and you haven't heard me mention it before, which would be quite rare, but we'll tell you about it as well. It Lives on Tape is a horror movie podcast that we each co-host. And it's a part of Pollyverse in many aspects as well, as we share the Discord and things like that. We have little movie streaming events and whatnot. And once again, we're intertwined in that way.
Yeah, it it really is just what it says on the tin. It's
Yeah.
a horror movie podcast.
Yeah.
But we do reviews, we do of horror movies, we do deep dives. We want to do like a lot more deep dives. But there's a lot of writing involved for that. Not that we don't want to do it, but it's just it takes a while to let those ideas cook.
Yeah. It feels like
What else do we do?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. We do deep dives, movie reviews. We did the tapies, but I was going to say
That's right.
as well with the deep dives, because what we like to do with It Lives on Tape, we really put the effort into writing, like coming up with the show notes, coming up with a concept or something, and then also doing the whole video production for it. So it's a full like product that we're proud of that we put out into the world. And yeah, with the deep dives, it becomes more like a video essay than a podcast, I'd say. It's yeah, I like thinking of it in that way, even though it is also obviously a podcast. But
yeah, I'd say this is no criticism of our deep dives, but I'd say that they're less tight than like a video essay.
That's true.
So they are more like a podcast in that sense.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Once
I'm
again,
agreeing with what you're saying.
A meshing, a combination.
That's right.
Podcast.
Some hybrid chimera of podcast and essay. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think first and foremost, though, we try to have fun, and isn't that what it's about?
That is
at
what
the end
it's
of the
about.
day.
That's what we do. All of our that's what I hope everyone does their creative projects for. That's certainly what we like to promote on Pollyverse. You know, you got to be in it for the fun of it, first and foremost, undoubtedly. And at that, I was going to ask you a bit about yourself and your interest in horror and why you love it so much to want to speak about it in a podcast with me.
Oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is our episode 0, but I'm slightly better at talking.
Awesome. Episode 0 revisited.
Oh man, I still have nightmares about episode 0. Showing my mum and her being like, you're kind of boring.
Oh no, parents are the harshest critics.
They certainly are.
We're shaking off the dust. We're shaking off the dust in the early episodes.
That's right. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how words work, and how to deal with being alone, but being in a call with someone and talking to people who aren't there yet. Anyway, bit about me. To get down to your question, I was introduced to horror by my nan when I'd stay at her house when she'd babysit me around the age of 8, I think. She'd get out like exorcism horror films. So we watched The Exorcist, was my first ever horror movie, and she was like, "Don't tell your mum." And then from that point, I was just like, "Oh, these are really cool."
Damn.
And interesting, and I loved the practical effects. I'm a big fan of that era of horror movie where it's all practical effects, and it feels both simultaneously fake and real. It feels kind of like you're in the room. There's a certain sort of sheen to it.
It feels very personal, definitely.
Yeah. And I love seeing that in newer films as well when it's done really well. But yeah, from that point, because I wasn't really allowed to watch horror movies, I just sort of started collecting those experiences at friends' sleepovers and stuff like that. because you can sort of lie to other people's parents, but not so much your own.
Yeah. It's a lot
Yeah,
easier.
of course I'm allowed to watch this.
Yeah. It's all good. Yeah, I've seen this movie before. This is chill. Yeah. I was gonna
It's
say
simple stuff.
that's so you're like 8 or 9 when you first watched The Exorcist.
Yeah.
That's a pretty young age. Did it terrify the hell out of you when you saw it first, or did you just love it?
I can't remember being scared of it. I think I just liked at that point I sort of grew up in a non-religious household that had come from a Catholic upbringing, if that makes sense. So my parents aren't religious, but my grandparents were, and their parents as well. So that's why my nan, I think, really liked exorcism films, because they played on that sort of Catholic upbringing.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I like that.
But yeah, I wasn't really scared of that because I didn't really believe in it, but or I didn't have that faith background. So yeah, I think I just liked it.
That's cool because it's known as like one of the scariest movies, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first saw some horror movies, like I was terrified of Shaun of the Dead, and that's a comedy, It's like, I don't even know if it counts as horror, but I just saw the zombies and I was like, like hiding. I was probably
I think it is still a horror.
Yeah, it might
it's
be
got all
horror.
the elements of a horror movie. Yeah.
When I think of the ending and stuff, it does get a bit horror, but it's like so comedic. But I was terrified of it. But that's what I think lured me in, because I've loved movies forever. And then there's something about like being terrified by something, like invoking that reaction in you is pretty impressive. And nowadays, I'm no longer terrified. I think I was only terrified the first like couple movies, and then I was numb to it already.
Right. I think ironically it was the movies that I wasn't able to watch, but I was somehow exposed to that terrify me the most. So like Dad would take us to the video store, and I'd always look at like the alien abduction movies. Like there was a Taken series, not Taken with Liam Neeson, but Taken with the aliens. And also Alien. I was picking up like War of the Worlds and stuff like that, and I was just like so enamored with like the covers of these films.
Oh, okay.
And like, you could flip them over and see like stills from them as well, and you might catch like a glimpse of the monster. Those films, I don't know, they scared me a lot more, because when I was finally able to watch them, I'd sort of built them up like so much more in my head, I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like
and also alien abduction films are just straight up terrifying, I think, because you can actually imagine them happening. Like everyone lives, everyone can sort of imagine it happening in their house. It's really a BYO environment.
While
experience.
You're sleeping. And there's no stopping it. It's like completely, like it seems impossible, but also it's plausible enough to scare you, like when you get paranoid about it at night.
You hear something at night that wakes you up, and you're like, oh shit, am I gonna get abducted by aliens? I know how this goes. But
I like that. So you're really into the covers and seeing like the art of the monsters and things like that at the movie store, and then also you could see past the being terrified. Like I remember I was when I saw Hide and Seek in the cinema, I literally had to hide my face because I was so scared. So you got to push through that point with movies like The Exorcist and appreciate it for the cinematography of it and the practical effects and everything.
Yeah.
That's
The
really
art
cool.
of it. Yeah.
That's nice. I think it took me a long time to get to that point with horror and probably with movies in general. I just thought the stories, I just love the stories. And then down the line, I started doing like Photoshop and things like that. And then I started thinking more about the visual side of it.
Right. I had to laugh a little just now because
Yeah.
you saying that you loved the stories of these movies is
Yeah.
so counter to what you've been saying on It Lives on Tape, at least early on. I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't watched the later episodes, but I think you do change your I think you do change your tune a little bit in that regard.
Yeah. I've been certainly walking it back slowly.
Yeah.
But now with movies, like when I was young, I definitely was really into the stories and just like fascinated by these other worlds and stuff like that, you know, the fantasy of film, kind of like that. And then now as I've gotten older, I'm a lot more into the aesthetic and the visual side of it, I think, while still appreciating the story.
That's good. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just realized my camera glitched out.
No, that's all good.
I've fixed it now.
I think it stopped on you smiling, so I just had a still of you smiling on the screen, so that was nice.
That's good.
But yeah, that's cool. So I guess It Lives on Tape is like the perfect vessel then to talk about all the things that you appreciate with like we said, the practical effects and the filmmaking that goes into horror in particular.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for, because, you know, to talk about why we started doing it. And again, this is like, I'm getting like Groundhog Day because this is this is our episode 0, but
it was inevitable.
it feels so much better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cool. Run with it.
I might just take this and put it as our episode 0.
Yeah, we slapped the It Lives on Tape banner on it. We're set. We're all good.
That's right. But you and I had started catching up again after years of sort of being in this weird slingshotting orbit.
Yeah. Social media
finally
orbit.
we had our collision moment. And yeah, you were like, I've had this idea for like a horror movie podcast. I think originally the wording that you'd use was like, I'd love to have you on, you know, to talk about like some movies or something. Or you talked in a way that made me think, oh, okay, Torkel wants me to like be a guest on this podcast. Like, oh, that would be really cool.
Oh yeah.
And then the next time I talked to you, you were like, no, I want to co-host. Like, I want interlocking fingers.
Yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, maybe I was like to test the waters or something. Maybe you could do something like this kind of episode. And then, but yeah, I definitely was keen on doing a collab long term after I saw how into horror movies you were from your stream at twitch.tv/GrumblyGhost.
Thank you. Yep. Don't hold your breath waiting in my on my Twitch channel.
So I say join the Pollyverse Discord, everyone, and between all of us on like within the community there, like there's someone streaming, you know, at some point. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, between all of us there's a consistent stream of content that you'd come to expect from a professional streamer.
Yeah, exactly. We're a collective professional streamer. But yeah, I loved movies myself, of course, but I'd been away from horror for a long time, even though I do love horror as well. So I definitely saw the opportunity of getting into it with you. But yeah, it's been an awesome journey.
And I'm glad for it. Yeah, no, it's been great. And will continue to be great.
Yeah. And that, I was going to say, we had most recently big event as our most recent episode was the Tapies 2023, which was basically a horror movie awards show that we came up with, where we had like typical of something like the Oscars and stuff like that, where we had nominations and categories and winners and everything. And we made a big show of it, and we had like a premiere on YouTube and everything. And it was a lot of fun. I went crazy with like promoting it leading up to it and stuff like that. And so this episode, I kind of also want to act as like the come down episode of that, so that I can refresh my brain going into the future of It Lives on Tape episodes for 2024.
Sure. So this is the debrief. This is
But God,
which I think we have already had.
Yeah, we pretty much had it.
Oh no, I think that would have been before our last staff meeting. I think was before the tapies.
Last proper,
Yeah.
Probably.
But yeah, wasn't that fun?
Yeah.
And like much more fun than I thought it would be, and much more. It garnered a lot more traction and attention than I thought it would. In our community, which is fantastic. I had such a great time having our watch party in the Discord, and chatting in the comments on our YouTube premiere. It was great, and a lot of people asking me like messaging me to ask, is this live? I don't know, like while it was playing, I guess expecting that I would stop what I was doing. If it was live, I'd stop what I was doing and message them back.
That's funny. I like that. Maybe in the distant future we'll have the tech to run such an operation live. But,
the staff as well, I think.
The staff,
Such a full on.
Our own Charlies and Susans.
That's right.
Which is what we affectionately named invisible staff members, non-existent staff members for the event.
We really must note down their names.
It was Charlie, Susan. There was one other one, but I can't remember who.
Whoever did the lunch order.
I think there may have been a Steve. That may have been it. I'm not sure.
That might have been it.
Yeah. But no, that was cool. And something a bit meta to that as well. Something I always heard for like social media and like content creation stuff. I'd always heard that you should create events. And I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, okay, create events. What the heck does that mean? And but in then just
what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. But then in doing it for the tapies, it certainly helped to push it out to people and make them aware of like a thing we were doing, and even like new people to the podcast and stuff like that. And be like, oh, this is cool. They're talking about horror movies and giving out awards and stuff.
It was a really interesting experience in social media. I think like you tried a lot of new things there that I think we can learn from moving forwards.
Definitely.
It was really well done. So just wanted to give you a quick hand clap for all your social media work there in promoting the event.
Thanks. Like I said, I went crazy doing it.
And you did the edit for the show as well, which is fantastic. Something that I found really funny about the whole experience though was just when we filmed it, it was very like we were having ideas right up to the last minute
Yeah.
before we hit
Yeah.
record. So it was very much like a group project where like you're just cramming.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, we got to get this.
I love that. Yeah.
We got to get this together. What about if we do this and this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That was the background of it. Because, like, you were moving houses at the time. So
Yeah.
we had just filmed. We decided we need to film 2 episodes to finish off the year. So we just filmed our episode on When Evil Lurks. And then I was like, okay, we're going to do this Tapies episode. And then we just put together a doc. We each made categories and then we each decided winners like on the spot before doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a very like, yeah, we decided categories based on the,
Yeah,
we're giving away so many secrets about things that I have told people I'm not going to divulge.
But up to you how much you want to give out, but I'm open to giving out whatever.
Right. I guess, on the Polly podcast, you're very like, give me the scoop.
It's very behind the creative mind, how it all works, how the spaghetti is made, because we're vegan,
right.
not how the sausage is made. How the vegan sausage is made.
How the celery stick with peanut butter is made.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a list of our favorite movies throughout the year, and we could have just done a top 10 list, and that would have been fine, I think. But some themes started popping up, and also we had much more than 10, I think. And yeah, so we decided on the themes like right before filming the episode, and then deciding what would win what category was done like very, very quickly, just of like gut instinct. And there was lots of like looking at our reviews on Letterboxd and being like, okay, what did we actually rank highly this year?
It was, I feel like it was only like 30 minutes of prep before we did it or something. Like you said, we had the like tentative list and then we added to it and just made it all up on the spot. But and I was browsing like, okay, what else came out in 2023? Like different horror movie lists of 2023, just to see if we'd missed anything. That was my fear of like, oh my God,
missed
what if we
a
missed
lot.
something? Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah,
didn't we?
There were a lot of films that didn't come that came out that I hadn't watched at the time, and I still haven't watched now.
Damn.
So, yeah, I need to do a proper deep dive on the year that was. But also having done that, I'm so excited for this year's Tapies.
Yeah.
And actually watching or making a concerted effort to watch every horror movie that comes out this year within reason. I know that we follow one creator. I've forgotten her
it's
her handle.
Room for Scream.
Room for Scream, that's right.
Yep.
She's doing every horror movie that comes out this year.
I struggle to believe it, but she's still going with it, and we're in February. So yeah, it's like every day.
I don't know how she's finding them all.
I don't know.
It's insane.
I just I messaged her from our account the other day, and I just said like, I'm literally using your reviews to like stay up to date. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Maybe you can recommend me some particularly good ones. Although I can't imagine that much good has come of the year so far. Yeah. Ah, damn. We should release a horror movie by the end of the year.
Yeah.
That is basically just a like, hello, we see what you're doing. We enjoy it.
Oh my God, make a meta horror movie where it's like, it's about the horror community and a horror fan who wants to watch all the movies, and they watch them all to the point of losing their mind or something, you know? That's the movie.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great story for it.
Yes. And then they'll have to watch
it.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
And it can like have all of the things that she has like said that she doesn't enjoy about previous films. It can play off like a couple of the main themes.
Yeah. Big time.
I don't know why I'm like trying to troll this person.
Wait, I got to give them a shout out now because they're also streamers. So twitch.tv/Room for Scream, I imagine is their handle. But yeah, they're an awesome horror content creator on the platform.
Fantastic.
That's another thing as well. Like, I'm also very keen for the tapies moving forward, especially now that we have a concept for it and we can build upon it with our knowledge and like more prep and stuff like that. And also, this is one of the notes I have written, is the horror community. I knew there was a horror community out there, but I didn't realize how strong and powerful and tight-knit it was. And the tapies helped made me realize that, because, you know, I had to look up these movie reviews and stuff, and yeah, just talking to people from, you know, the tags that we follow and stuff like that on social medias. It's like, I like the tapies for that as well, because it sort of brings in that sort of horror community and is like, hey, this is what we thought about this year's movies. What do y'all in the horror community think? And also check out all of our other stuff because you might like it.
Yeah. I think it was a great way to cap off our first like unofficial season, our unofficial first season. And I know we've been brainstorming ideas for our next one, which I'm really excited for. And yet I keep thinking, like, if that's what we manage to do on like 30 minutes of prep and just quickly brainstorming, this year is I'm really excited to see what we do for it.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But I guess
especially like I remember like we usually have a break while we're filming an episode. And so filming 2 episodes in one day, like we needed a break, and it was about half an hour. And you were like, I'm going to dress up for this next one. So if you want to dress up, that's fine. Like, you can do whatever you want.
I forgot that. Like, we didn't even have that idea until the moment, pretty much.
And I was like, oh shit, okay. I went and put on a suit, slicked my hair back.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Finally did my hair. Yeah.
That made it, because I just had the turtleneck on. I definitely need to bring my suit for the next one as well.
You looked very smart, but
thanks. I was embodying the Torkel, the writer persona.
No, very nice. But yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to make, and a lot of fun for us to put together. And that's all I was expecting from it. And then to have it have gotten, you know, so much traction in our community is just, it was really nice. You know, people sending me pictures of it on their tally. It was so pleasant.
That felt pretty cool to see that when you showed me that message. That was awesome. I didn't really phrase it as a question earlier, but I had a question to you about horror communities. Like, because you've been in the horror game for a while before the podcast and everything, watching a lot of horror. Do you have the same sentiment as me? Like, have you viewed these sort of horror communities online, and have you been a part of them in any way?
A little bit here and there. I'm quite a solitary type guy, or at least prior to this, but definitely like the r/horror subreddit.
Yeah.
I've frequented on that for a little while. But not anything really beyond that. This is what It Lives on Tape has been really good for me, because we've been following a lot of these accounts and these other creators, and talking with them, and dropping comments on their things and watching more of their content. So that's been really good. That's really been my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so excited for like the next year, where we're finding more and more people who are into the genre and who enjoy talking about it. I know that we've recently just joined a bit of a horror movie club locally with some friends. Stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, it's new to me as well in the online stuff. Like, I didn't realize there was so many creators who that was their thing, is horror. Whether it's horror movies or horror video games or, something. It's like just the horror aesthetic in general. And that's so cool to see. And like you said, in your personal life, I know you've had different like horror movie nights and things like that, and now we're part of the horror movie club and stuff like that. And I'm wondering to myself, like, is there something about horror that brings people together for these types of things, whether it's online or in person? Something that inspires that kind of experience? I feel like
I think so. And if I can theorize on it for a moment, I think
please.
it's the exclusionary nature of it. It's people being like, no, that's not for me. That sort of pushes people who like horror into like the sort of outcast, into the other group, and then that has these people form community, or it's more likely to become your thing because it's decidedly not other people's thing. I feel like it's a similar thing with like metal music.
Oh yeah, that's a good
because
comparison.
it's such a particular taste.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh no, that's not for me. Like, I hate metal music, or I hate country music.
It's very much a love and hate. Most people aren't like, horror's all right. It's usually like, I'm quite into the good horror movies, or like, nah, I can't watch it.
I think, because of that, because it's so cut and dry, love and hate, it's community forms from it, which I don't think you get. You don't get that for action movies, or I guess you get superhero movies. Like, there's people who are like really into those, but
it's pretty
that's
like mainstream,
based around comic books and whatnot, so it's kind of different.
Exactly, it blends into other communities. I feel like the only other thing is like, I know there's like real big film buffs that are into certain directors or certain like classic films and stuff like that, or like art films. Like, that's kind of comparable, but I think metal music is a really good comparison. That's that feels very similar to me.
But again, with like art films or foreign films, I think the same thing happens. Where people, like, probably the mainstream is like, I don't want to read subtitles.
Yeah.
That's
the end of the story. Yeah, there's stop at that point. There's like, nope, no subtitles for me.
reading's for nerds. I don't want to.
You're making me read while I watch this movie? Come on. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, that's what I reckon.
I love that about, yeah, I'm discovering that through It Lives on Tape endeavors. So I love that about the horror community. And like we said, especially following content creators, now I'm like starting to feel like there's also some creative inspiration that comes from horror as well. And it kind of makes sense when you think about, I guess, even people who make, I mean, this is a stretch, but people who make horror films, like they're kind of, how do I word this? They're also potentially, I'm not saying they are, getting into it in order to separate themselves from other filmmakers and stuff like that, and so that they can explore their more artistic ideas and the ways of applying effects and stuff like that, which can't be done on maybe a more traditional movie that doesn't have the, quite visceral nature that a horror movie can have.
Yeah, I think so. It pushes the it pushes the envelope a lot, I think, the genre, and also because traditionally it's been able to be made on such a low budget, and it hasn't had all that big studio buy-in, where producers are kind of ruling the roost of, and really like reining in directors. It's really, can be like whatever the director wants, they can do. There's probably a lot of freedom in that.
I don't mean to sound elitist about it, but it feels like there really is, as I'm learning, as I'm doing the podcast with you, it feels like there really is a skill to horror movies in particular. Like, to make a good horror movie, you really have to be on your game with camera work. You have to be on your game with visuals and lighting. And you have to be on your game with music. Like, good music will make or break it as well. And it's like, other movies, you don't necessarily need those things, but to make an amazing movie, of course, you also have to have all those elements. But you could make a really solid movie without a lot of that, I think. But for a horror movie, you're not going to make a good horror movie without those things.
No, yeah, you really have to be dialed into the language of cinema, because you're tapping into something primal. You're trying to stir something primal within people.
Yeah. And
that can be really difficult to do convincingly. You're trying, if this is the layer at which people usually interact with media, you're trying to get deeper. You're trying to get more under their skin. And stir that feeling. It's not like,
I like that, tapping into fears.
It's not like surface level kind of story and plot kind of thing that most media that they would consume touches. It's much deeper.
Yeah.
A good horror movie.
It's not just, tapping into stresses like a thriller might do. It's tapping into the anxiety, the paranoia, the like sheer horror and fear of a phobia or something. It could be anything. Yeah.
And also documenting like the times and the attitudes of society around it. It's such an interesting genre.
I like that. I know we're just riffing here, but I feel like I'm learning something a little bit more about it by just expressing my thoughts on it with you now. That's cool.
Me too.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to also, I want to talk about how all of those elements of horror that we've been talking about, how it can inspire creativity from horror filmmakers, from people. I think we've pretty much talked about that, but also from ourselves, and like how we've been talking about potentially doing a short film or something in the future, potentially under the It Lives on Tape banner.
Yeah. I'd really like to do that. I think I think I said at the start of the year, like around New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals, rather, that I want to at least write one scene for a screenplay. So that would tick that box for me.
Nice. I can definitely get that one.
Yeah. And yeah, that's something that we've been doing on the podcast anyway. Often is we'll be like, oh, what if we were writing this? Or like, you know, what would be our ideal spin on the zombie genre? I think we had a couple of good ones around that.
Yeah. We've done it a few times really well. It's a lot of fun.
It is. I think that's like the key thing for me is like those sort of writer room segments that we've been doing have been like so much fun that I just want to ride that to its logical conclusion.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to keep going with it until it's not fun.
Yeah.
And
hey, then we find a new movie to review and it stirs up the spirit again and we have some new ideas.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I'm going to make a document after this and like highlight the writer's room segments because I was forgetting about those lately, but they're really good. We've had some really good ones across our episodes.
Yeah. We had this really, really cool one. It was on the They Can Run episode, the Running Zombies one. And we're talking about, you know, how would we twist the zombie genre? We're talking about like zombie fish, zombie sea life. And we were like detailing this scene where there was like some deep sea drilling. Right. There was like a diver deep sea drilling and he's on comms with the people on the ship.
Yeah.
And he gets like attacked and they like bring him up as quickly as they possibly can. While he's like turning.
Yeah, that was good.
I was like, oh, that's such a fully formed scene. Like I can see that. I can feel like I'm in a cinema watching that.
Exactly. That's like the intro to get you hooked and then the story starts after that. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, we'll make that one day.
Yeah, well, that's such a high budget idea.
Yeah, that's like you need scuba, like you need an underwater camera, you need everything.
Right. But yeah, I'm really interested in like collaborating on writing these kind of like screenplay ideas in the horror genre with you. Yeah.
I think from analyzing. And like, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm kind of just riffing as I'm realizing these things from the top of my dome. But from analyzing these movies, it like puts you in the creative mindset of, what would you do differently? And how would you make the movie? And what would your spin on an original version of this genre be? So I think it's kind of a natural development to obviously continue on the podcast and then also expand into other ideas that we might have, like short films in the future and stuff like that. Like, oh God. Yeah. So I definitely see that as being a goal for the future. Write a short film and then try filming some of it.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
That'd be a lot of fun. Be so much fun.
So that's something for you all to look forward to in years into the future. But on the short term,
taste test.
Yeah. But on the short term,
sample.
A little nibble, a little tasty treat.
A little morsel. Scrumptious.
Yum yum yum. Yes. Delicious.
Little cube of flesh.
But also this kind of is like winding down now, but also just in the future for 2024 episodes, I think we've kind of found our rhythm and we've sort of spoken about that recently offline. And we've sort of, I mean, we made a joke. We're like, how we had it first was, I think you said it, how we had it first was the right way. And we stumbled back towards it. we initially had a sort of movie review episode in the Neon Demon Disaster, and then we had a deep dive episode in your They Can Run episode, the zombies running.
Yeah.
And we made our way back around now with like your When Evil Lurks review episode, and then with the tapies and stuff like that. So
well, the tapies is a different beast entirely. Yeah, I think
it is a bit different.
But that's not to say it's not to say that we're going to continue the pattern of movie review deep dive, because that's unsustainable. But those are the two kinds of episodes that I think will be those are the two formats that I think we'll be running with.
Yeah, exactly. And also fun ones, like implementing more fun concepts and skits and whatnot on the fly on our episodes. Yeah, having fun with the horror genre. Yeah, stuff like that.
One of my favorite episodes that we did actually was the X-Traps the Sorax episode that you brought.
Thanks. Yeah, that was
a lot of fun. I'd like to do more like that as well.
Certain movies, it like presents an opportunity, with the type of movie it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that'd be fun to do as like a relaxed fit type episode, like just chill, stay in your pajamas type episode.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we got a message from SVK on the live stream. So when am I coming on for guessing more gruesome deaths in the Final Destination series? Now that's an idea.
That's a good one.
Yeah. If Final Destination releases a new movie, which I imagine they will one day, because they eventually always do with these kinds of series. That'd definitely be a good segment. Like, what are the craziest ways to die? The Darwin Awards kind of thing.
I foresee that they will be bringing out another.
Within the next 5 years, I imagine.
But yeah, no, that'd be sweet. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of things
to think of others. I can't.
Lots of things on the horizon, folks. Beautiful, brave things happening in the It Lives on Tape world. And I hope we've given you an interesting, thought-provoking little conversation on like creativity and horror and how they intertwine. I think it was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, we definitely talked about horror.
Yeah.
So hopefully it was interesting. I think it was. Yeah, and just really excited to keep it going. It's been a lot of fun. I'm sure it will continue. And it's growing into, I didn't really expect that, like for it to grow in, like develop into its own thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, like its own, like namesake, its own brand, you mean? Like that?
It's kind of, sometimes it feels like it has a life of its own or like a mind of its own. It's like,
I think I get you.
It's unclear at times what we're doing to develop it and what it's doing to develop itself.
Yeah. I get that feeling from like when you're developing a brand or something, then if it has a clear idea, like It Lives on Tape is, it's a horror podcast at its core.
Yeah.
Then, you know what it is and you're just, it makes sense to me the way you worded it. It's like you're and that's
working
within it.
Kind of the brand anyway, it's this malevolent force that lives on tape, and it's kind of reaching out and influencing us through the movies that we watch.
Yes.
And that's really how it feels sometimes when we've been making it.
Yes, the horror
Fantastic.
of creativity coming back to grab us and pull us back in to its clutches.
Mm. No.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining me on this, my good sir.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
It's been fun. It's been a lovely chat.
Yeah.
I tell you what, just on the down low, I wish that you could be my co-host. Yeah, Torkel's great. Torkel's great, but it's with all the with all the success of his poetry and all of the land that he owns, it's getting more difficult to relate to him.
Yeah. He's out of touch. I know what you mean. He barely stops by the Pollyverse offices anymore. You know, he has his own office. He has his home office that he wants to work from all the time. And yeah, I know what you mean. He doesn't watch half the horror movies as well, I heard. So
okay, I'm not going to confirm that. That's a vicious rumor.
I heard some speculation from the tapies that he didn't watch a bunch of the movies.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's yeah, I believe that's a vicious rumor.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, yeah. Well, we'll have to have you back again, as I was saying in the pre-show. Have to have you back again to talk more about yourself rather than, our collaborative project, if you're keen for it.
Yeah, sure. I think I said before I'll have to develop some sort of idea of myself before I can have that chat, but looking forward to it.
It'll be the chat where the epiphany happens. Like it'll be be the moment. And then you'll go off and write.
I like that.
You'll go off and write a movie script straight after it, and you'll be like stuck at the typewriter like, I've got it.
It's that sort of like, this is both amazing and painful.
Fingers bleeding like Whiplash, that movie. Keep rhythm. Go.
Yeah. It is very much like Whiplash. I can see that. That imagery.
Yeah. That's a movie in itself, a horror version with, elements of Whiplash in it.
That kind of is a horror movie.
It pretty much
in a way, or it's kind of like more of a thriller, I guess.
Yeah. It's very close to it. It definitely plays on fears with authority and stuff like that.
Great movie. Great movie.
I love it. But yeah, thanks for being here. And that's what we do on Pollyverse. We have these creative chats. So thanks for joining us. Check out GrumblyGhost at twitch.tv/GrumblyGhost. Check out It Lives on Tape as well, which is It Lives on Tape on all podcasting platforms. Hope to see you there. Thanks for tuning in to another Polly podcast. Thanks for being here, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Torkel. Been amazing.
All right. Bye-bye to the podcast audience. Not bye-bye to the Twitch stream audience.